today, we are very lucky to have a very knowledgeable woman to talk to us about traditional Chinese medicine. Philippa, say hi.
Hello. Welcome, everybody.
See her in her beautiful backdrop there. So Philippa Harvey is the head of the TCM department, the Traditional Chinese Medicine department at Shah Wellness Clinic in Spain. I know some of you have visited Shah, but those who haven't, it really is one of the world's leading health spas. I always find that the best wellness resorts are those that have been started by individuals who have their own story, and their own mission, and who have kind of suffered with their own health. So the founding family at Shah, they're called the Battaliers. They're very passionate about the health practices that helped heal their father because he had serious health issues. So then they went on and they created this very special health spa, and it's a very smart place that combines the best of Eastern and Western medical practices. So they have lots of doctors there, lots of testing present, but most importantly, they also have the best practitioners with the holistic health practices, such as TCM, that helped Mr. Battalier heal. So today we welcome Philippa Harvey, who heads up the TCM team there, and also she treats the guests at Shah. So okay. Philippa, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolute pleasure, Stella. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you. Before we delve into TCM, I just want to find out a little bit about you, because you have a bit of an unusual background. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into becoming a TCM practitioner, please.
Okay, the first introduction to TCM that I had, I was 18, and I had a car accident, and I was 3 or 4 months in hospital. When I came home, a friend of mine's dad was actually a practitioner in those days. We're talking a long time ago. Never knew this thing existed, knew nothing about a TCM or acupuncture or anything. And he looked at me with a lovely little bunch of flowers in his hands, welcomed me back, saying, "Oh, we'll have you up and walking in no time." And I thought, oh, yes, okay, I've heard this story before. In actual fact, it was true. Within about 15 days, 10 days, I was walking with difficulty, but I was walking and I could swim. So my rehabilitation was a lot more effective. I'm talking a long time ago where, I mean, physios didn't even exist. This is something we all had to get on our feet on our own way. So I thought at that time, this is an amazing structure medicine. I have no idea what it's about. I'd love to learn about it. I didn't. I went to do economics, business studied, and comply what the family like you to do and get a job and do all these things. And from then on, I went and I've worked for about over 20 years in IT, in technology. So the irony here is I was always practicing, well, since 2004 and earlier, traditional Chinese medicine in parallel to my real job in IT and project managed there. But with my team, if they were stressed, they'd say, "Philippa, put the needle on the head," and then start carrying on working. So it is not, the parallel here, my point, Stella, is that it is still a system, IT, technology, and the system that I've learned in a body function is also still a system. It's an internal system, an external system, and everything's related. And in IT, when we came out with the bug, I loved it. I just loved the name bug, because we'd have to try and find what's going on and get it fixed, or see, actually, that bug's not that bad in what we try to design. So this whole, it's been a natural evolution for me, but my passion for people has been since I've had the use of reason. I've studied biology, and I just love people, and I love the interaction with people, and I think the body is just an amazing thing. So this is what took me to the official line of studying traditional Chinese medicine in 2004. And wow. I've been to China. Yes, sorry, and I started my practical.
That's okay. It's really interesting, and you talk about the bug in IT, and it uses all those words, and I've never really thought about that, like how in systems and IT and business systems, that it is, you can make that correlation with the health and the body, and and how you treat yourself. That's really interesting. Can you actually tell us, what is TCM? What are the major components of TCM? Because people, you know, we've had exposure to TCM in the Western world, but we think of it largely as acupuncture and maybe herbs. You know, we've had a lot of these like Chinese health centres opening up all over the UK, and you know, you kind of walk in and you're given herbs and acupuncture. But tell us, really, give us a more
and the idea is you're given herbs and acupuncture and you have no idea why.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back to my paradigm of systems. An MD today is going to study a structure, is going to study physiologically where everything goes. And thanks to their experience, and we live in 2020, we can have an arm put back on, a heart can be replaced. We're very lucky to be where we are. When we study our traditional Chinese medicine system, it's like an electronic system rather than just the physical side. So we are looking at what people call prana in Ayurveda, chi in Chinese medicine, or energy, or whatever you want to call it. But for me, as I advance more and more in the scientific understanding of what we're doing with TCM as a structure, it really is an electromagnetic system for me. So when I put the needle in a specific point, I feel, and I genuinely believe, that we're actually helping an electronic system to open or to close. And this is a correlation that in modern times, I think we can relate to a lot more easier. We have a circuitry in us. We learn the circuit in TCM medicine, the heart, the lungs, the conception vessels. And then from there, we can see how this circuit energy flow is actually going to influence these organs or the body as a whole. And if that makes a bit more sense. So when we give herbs, or we do acupuncture, or we even do some type of massage, we're helping this flow of electricity in the body. And it's not so far fetched, I think, today as it would have been maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years ago when electricity didn't exist. We know if we have a heart problem, we go maybe have a stents put in, or we have a, what's it in English, a pacemaker. A pacemaker basically is just a little battery telling the heart how to impulse. It's an electronic device. And if we have cephalograms of our head, it's an electronic device that's telling our brain waves what's going on. When we measure sleep, it's a brain wave. Every cell is charged electronically. So it's not really absurd to be saying there is this electronic system in the body. And I think medicine needs to look a lot more towards this side of our health and for wellness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It's just, it's something that I think confuses a lot of people, the whole concept of meridians and chi. Like chi, as you're saying, is like people say, oh, well, it's energy, but you know, what is that energy? Because it's not something that we're taught, and it's not something that we're taught to by our conventional, you know, our kind of Western medical doctor. But now you're saying it's like electricity. Chi, you're saying it's like electricity that flows in different patterns throughout our body. Can you talk to us a bit about the meridians?
Yes. Okay. So a meridian would be a circuitry, people, to relate it to things that we can understand. It's like a river, for example. We start from here and it goes in and it goes into our heart. Okay. Then this relationship would then expand out to other parts of our body. So meridian is basically, there's 12 main meridians representing the most organs, hearts, lungs, digestive systems, and then we have smaller ones, conception vessels, and Dumai, another one at the back. So these are 14 generally larger ones, and then there's lots of little ones also. Everything is interconnected. It is a matrix. It's like a modern Wi-Fi system, should we say, in our body. That should one area be weak, it's not going to reach the rest of the body. I'm just putting words that we can relate to. Sorry?
No, that's great. Can you see it in the human body? Can you see those meridians? You can't see them.
That's very interesting. Everyone's researching this concept of, can we see it? Can we see electricity? Can we see radio waves? No, but I'm talking to you in Spain. Can we see what's going on? Okay, so it's a bit of quantum thought, a bit of quantum physics, if you want to put it here. And if you'd have spoken to someone 100 years ago that would be talking not face to face, they'd have thought we're absolutely losing our center. And this is really where we are, and that's how I feel things should be looking into this. And we have radio frequencies, Wi-Fi, everything, something that we now just normalize, but we haven't taken a look into the body electric side of our health. We've specialized fantastically in an organic way, in a mechanical way, and we have the best experts in the world. But it would be nice if we could start looking at the epigenetics, which is a big market at the moment in what's happening to our cells. Really, what tells that cell that I need an eyelash when it falls out, rather than I don't have a toenail coming out of my eyebrow, okay? It's amazing what goes on in our body. It's a miracle, basically, every day that we wake up without doing anything. So what's happening all the time in our body? What is this electronic circuit or mechanism that's happening in our body that tells everything what to do? This is where we really are in science. It's very interesting. It's a very beautiful place to be.
So it's kind of moving beyond what we've been taught from the logical and the mechanical thought.
Yes.
What I'm fascinated about, this may be a bit of a crazy question, but how did they come up with, how did they find out where those meridians flow,
Okay.
and how they affect the different organs?
I wish I could give you the 100% answer from my personal experience, but it's only from reading. Some people say this system was devised through trial and error in 3,000 years ago. Others say 5,000 years, whichever literature you want to go. So let's say maybe 3,000 years ago. What I do believe is what happens is the very Zen side of understanding our interconnectedness with nature is paramount here. Okay, we have meridians in the world which you're all comfortable with, this way and that way, and we know there's a change in electromagnetism in this meridian structure. Should we go more polar north or to the south? Okay, and we know what happens on the main meridians. There's slightly different things going on. We know weird things happen with magnets. Okay, so there must have been some idea here, understanding what happens to this body if something outside it, in nature or not in nature, changes this circuitry. So it really is a very close connectedness with nature. We've become so far from that. You know, we eat the same food all the year. We don't help ourselves with a bit of vitamins before autumn, or, you know, come the summer, let's get energetic and just have a good time barefoot. And we just literally, we're very stable here. We forget about there is movement all the time and change in the body. And that's where electromagnetism, I think, originally must have come from 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Otherwise, I can say, I don't know, UFOs. I have no idea. I wish I could say where they got this information from, because today it's more relevant than it would have been then, or we've lost a lot of information.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find great about SHA is that you have the conventional kind of Western medicine sitting alongside this TCM, and you somehow make it all work together. And also, I feel now that the Western medical practice is more accepting. Yes. Certainly with acupuncture, right? Are you finding that? Are you seeing there's more of an acceptance of this ancient practice, which maybe is harder to explain than in a mechanical and logical way?
I think, Stella, it's easier now to explain that there is a correlation of how we're feeling or our emotions to our body. I mean, people talk, oh, it's stress. You go and see your MD. Oh, it's stress. You know, we know now what is stress. It's something that comes from all over the place, and it is affecting us emotionally. It is affecting us physically. And Chinese medicine, a dog bite or a virus is as important as your emotion. And we always ask about emotions. The psychology behind TMC is very paramount in everything that we do. Anger will affect your liver. Kidneys will be affected with fear. So when these emotions are prevalent, it's chicken and the egg. Either my kidneys are going to get weak, or I'm afraid anyway, okay? And a lot of people at the moment on this ambiguity of coronavirus, there's a lot of fear going on at the moment. Okay? Yeah. A lot of liver and lots of kidney weakness. And coming back to SHA, it's an absolute privilege to be in a team that we have here of openness, of understanding, that we need to work together. We do work together, and everyone's opinion is totally respected. We have meetings 2 or 3 times a week. We talk about our guests and our patients, and we correlate between us what's the best strategy for that person.
Yeah, And that's great. I know the doctors at Shah are very open-minded about this, and see an integrated approach as being very important. There's a question that's come in about, we often hear about qi getting blocked in the meridian channels. How does that happen?
Okay, I'll come back to the pure example of this fear. Okay, when we're in a situation of constant fear, we're not taught that emotion is motion. It should be moving. That's the real word behind emotion. All emotions are good, some less good or some better, but they're good. It's giving our body a chance to react to an external stimuli. So the emotion of fear, if it's stuck in us and we're not dealing with it or even acknowledging it, we say in Chinese medicine it's going to affect our kidneys. So we have our blocked qi, our blocked electricity channel, should we say, or river, is slightly getting blocked in those areas. It's like a river with lots of little leaves getting accumulated little by little until it becomes blocked. So when we unblock it, either with herbs, it could be acupressure if you're doing it at home, because most of us are at home right now, or with acupuncture needles, we're literally opening up this circuit, or a screwdriver in your electronic circuit, if you want to put it, whichever paradigm people are more comfortable with. So that's unblocking qi. So it's important when you have qigong, which I think you've spoken about, or tai chi, or anything like this, where the movements are to also unblocking. You're moving these meridians, so this flow is actually going through your body.
So that the paradigm of TCM is very much around moving that qi around the body, where how it should move through all the different practices, whether it's Tai Chi or Qigong or acupuncture. Okay, I've got it. And
I'm not selfish with it, yes.
yeah. And then it's really interesting what you talk about, the trapped emotions. I mean, this is prevalent amongst all the kind of indigenous ancient healing practices. They seem to have understood that thousands of years ago, you know, and somehow we forgot that along the way somewhere. I don't know how or why, but we're coming back to it now, which is brilliant. That if we have an emotion that we just ignore or we bury, we don't allow it to come out, and it's almost like we don't even know that it's happening. I mean, we talked about this a little bit the other day when I asked you what complaints have people got who are coming right now to Shah, and you said they're normalizing things that shouldn't be normalized.
Absolutely.
Can you expand on that?
Yes, okay. For example, the fear or a situation external to us. We've lost our autonomy, literally. We're back to a feeling of a childish, should I say, a dependency here, which is nothing out of our control. It's not something we're used to dealing with. And we just, rather than, should I say, coming to terms with it or debating with it or finding solutions, we're just swallowing it. It's the word I'm trying to find is, when you're dependent, when you're a child, you're totally dependent on everybody else. You just can't release. You can't do this, and it's
helpless.
It's helpless is a word. Thank you. Yes, you're helpless. We are helpless at the moment. So within this structure, how can we do the best that we can? We're at home. We can follow some qigong or tai chi online. You mentioned the beginning of the program, your lymphatic drainage is wonderful. Lymphatic drainage, you're also helping all the meridians down. Brushing down is fantastic. Again, that's helping the body to deal with it. But really right now, it's please talk about how we're feeling. Please say, I feel frustrated. Please say, actually, I'm scared of visiting my mum, or whatever we have to feel with, and verbalize it. So we have the coherence is so important, okay? Our head, our hands, and our heart have got to be in coherence with the situation that we are now to stay healthy under these extreme situations.
Okay, so vocalize it and let it out. We're very British, stiff upper lip over here, where we don't want to show our emotions. So you're saying let go of that and release it. And the people who are coming to Shah right now, you said they're having like these kidney and liver issues, which is very much driven from the fear, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, absolutely, yes. So we help on the meridian side on that. There's yoga here. There's lots of different things that can help on the wellness side. And then there's a medical line. If you're worried about the liver, literally, or the kidneys, you can have tests done for this. And if you want this stiff upper lip and you won't speak about it, write it down.
Okay, write it down. So journaling is
Do
good too.
something, yeah.
Yeah. Is this something that the Chinese do, just out of interest?
The Chinese?
Yeah. I mean, it came from them, right? Traditional Chinese medicine. How do they release their emotions? Just culturally,
I
I'm
think
interested.
culturally speaking, and when my experience in China was when you walk to the park, it's very collective, it's very open, and there's beautiful parks in Yunnan where I was doing my practicals in hospital, and you'd walk in the park and you see a bunch of ladies with beautiful red the fans doing a form of Tai Chi. So they're dealing with this emotion that way. I don't know between them if they verbalize it because I mean I don't speak Chinese, but then you go about 2 meters down and you see all these guys and women together singing as a community and releasing whatever their issue was, or a little chappie sitting there playing. It's a total different way of they're not so individualistic. So by not being so individualistic, you're actually sharing this collectiveness on things, and they do communicate in their way, and they work with their chi for sure.
That's interesting. So doing stuff
Yeah.
from a community perspective is much better. And I guess that's been even that's been inhibited even more now with lockdown. You know, people aren't moving out into the community. Let's move on to what kind of illnesses or complaints do you think are best treated with TCM?
Okay, for my personal experience, obviously I'm going to globally, most illnesses can be treated with TCM. I'd like to see more working together from diabetes to even cancer, should I be so bold to stay here. But we have to work together with MDs and us. On a solely TCM perspective, fertility is very effective, for example. It's very good. There's a very good professionals working in this area. Anxiety, of course, depression, or also the more emotional side, TCM is very effective. Diabetes, it helps also. So really, we have to understand the principle of TCM is that we are getting the body to be back to its natural state. So we come back to something we mentioned the other day, Stella, is that illness is not something that happens overnight. Never does. So we have to start now associating or delegating our own responsibility back to our health management and understanding what's going on in our bodies. And I'm jumping at the subject here that the COVID situation has actually given us, in an indirect way, an opportunity to start looking after our own wellness rather than delegating it out all the time to doctors. We have had time for situations like what you're doing today to really see what I can do at home. In Spain, all the hospitals are highly empty because people are not just going because they have a sore knee. They're actually dealing with this in a more self-managed way, which is very good for everything generally. Okay, so TCM, coming back to what's good, anything really sounds ambiguous here, but most things can be treated with TCM.
So mainly, but you were saying earlier, like chronic diseases like diabetes and autoimmune and stuff like that.
Yes.
And then coming back to this point of that we talked about, that illnesses don't just appear overnight. You don't wake up in the morning and contract diabetes or cancer or anything like you've got it overnight. It's been over many years, and then people expect to have an instant relief of that illness. But with TCM, it's like a slower approach. It's not like taking a pill that's going to give you instant relief of whatever it is, or like with diabetes, with the I forgot what that drug's called that they give for diabetic patients, but that
insulin.
You know, the insulin they give anyway. They give us a specific drug which manages insulin immediately, whereas a TCM is a slower approach, which is a lifestyle change, right?
It's a lifestyle change, exactly, and it's getting your body back to its perfect state within its sustainable situation. Obviously, if you're 90 or 80 or 75, we can't give you a 25-year-old body, but we can make sure that within your health management, you're the best possible you. There's no superhumanness here. It's just getting you as best as possible, as healthy as possible, no aches and pains within your own capacity. And
Yeah,
then people say, oh, I've had acupuncture, doesn't work. Well, how many times did you do it? Twice. And
right.
they've gone with an ankle that's been, sprained 4 months ago and it's still aching, for example, okay? Because people associate acupuncture most with pain relief or, a sprained ankle. People come and see me, but my shoulders are sore. I said, okay, apart from your shoulders, can we have a look a little bit at your body holistically? We'll look at your shoulders also, because of course if someone's bothering them, we look at shoulders, but then we'll see there's other things going. So if you come with a sprained or tennis elbow or something, of course acupuncture is very effective for that. But also I like to add in, it's not just acupuncture, it's TCM as a whole. It is a medical approach. It is understanding how your body works electromagnetically or meridian-wise to help, as well as if you have your sore shoulder or your sore elbow.
Right. And when it comes to cancer, so that obviously cancer would be best treated with an integrated approach, but a lot of people prescribe acupuncture for cancer patients. Why is that? And and what else can cancer patients do?
Well, I thank you for bringing up this topic because it's very dear to me. I lost a friend a year ago to cancer. We did a lot for him, and we really helped him improve his life for over 3 years. Where they said he was basically terminal. Integrative health is very important for all of us today, especially in cancer relief. Thank goodness it's not as it was 20 years ago where chemo was like a hammer on the head and poor people were really suffering. Now it's much more specific, it's much more cell related, much more illness related, but it still creates, from traditional Chinese medicine perspective, internal heat. It does burn the body inside. Well, that's its objective. It's to actually break down the cancerous cells and heal you. So what we do, we complement these treatments with acupuncture, with herbs, and different treatments that will actually help the body recover in parallel with what's going on with chemo and radiotherapy.
Okay,
It's nice
so
if more people did this.
It helps counteract the conditions that come from the treatment,
Yes,
basically.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I can't be bold enough to say I'd be that it heals cancer because
No.
I don't think nothing does, because it's cancer's a collection of lots of different things that are creating an imbalance in your cellular structure. So you really have to see what the origin of this. It could be 10 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago. So that's where we are with the illness.
Okay. There's some other questions that have come in here. With liver and kidneys being weak at the moment, as you said, because of COVID, what tips do you have to strengthen them, please?
Okay, love it. Great question. Food. The right food. So I'm going to suggest, because there's a bit of homework, because people will just listen and then go back to life. Look a little bit on the web of what foods will reinforce your kidneys. For example, as silly as it sounds, kidney beans do. Okay, so these are foods that reinforce the kidneys. But if you can look up for some qigong online for kidneys. There's lovely movements you can do at home gently. A lovely walk in back to nature is also very good for you. And most importantly, really is you have to release that fear. Recognize it. Talk about it. Paint it. Shout about it. Stamp your feet in the gardens or whatever, barefooted a little bit. Release this energy. There's loads of little things you can do.
Okay, that's great tips. Thank you. So, and then another question here, how are herbs, acupuncture and moxibustion used, and what are the differences between them?
Lovely question. Thank you. Herbs, like anything that we eat, has, according to traditional Chinese medicine, an energy also, a bioelectronic energy that actually can be measured now. So should we take some herb for us in Chinese medicine, it's going to create internal heat. So according to your body, if you have a cold constitution or you have an issue with your a weak stomach, we need to increase the heat in your stomach, would give you herbs or ask you to eat a food that has more a heat quality to it. We don't talk in calories, we talk in this energetic level. So when we assign herbs to somebody, it will be evolving the different combinations of these qualities of the herbs to help that constitution or that issue at the time. So that's the herbs. very, very phytotherapy. It's basically, if we want to talk about hormones, flax seeds are going to help with estrogens, for example. So everything has its type of chemical issue in it, but in Chinese medicine we call it energetical, so hot, cold, medium, or neutral. So according to someone's constitution, we'd be looking at that profile of what herbs to give somebody or what food to recommend somebody. Moxibustion is adding, again, heat. We're all talking about temperature here all the time, adding heat to the body. It's generally presented in the traditional way. It looks like a cigar. It has moxa inside it, which is mugwort, basically, compressed inside a cigar. And we add this to different points along your meridians to warm up the meridians if you should have cold. Again, I come back to who the practitioner you see. Not everybody needs to add heat to the body, and moxibustion is not good for everybody. So this is, again, we don't add heat to somebody who already has a lot of heat in them. And then the third question was acupuncture is literally insertion of needles into the specific points. If you don't want to have acupuncture, you could just have the moxa in the different points also, which warms up the meridians. So the therapist or the traditional Chinese doctor who you will see will probably use a combination of these tools, which is part of TCM. There are about 8 or 9, sorry, 7 main areas, 6 main areas in TCM. One tool is acupuncture.
That's really interesting. It reminds me a little bit of Ayurveda when you were talking about the hot and cold, because it's the same, you know, like you have the pitta types, which is hot, and then kapha, which are more earthy people. It sounds quite similar, and they talk about prana, and you talk about chi. It is quite similar. How do you diagnose people?
We are trained to check the pulse. So we have 9 different organs represented on our pulses, so medium, deep, and deeper. So we're going to check on our hands how the heart is going, how the liver is, how the kidney is going, how our bladder is going. So we do pulse analysis first when a person walks in, and I am criticized by my friends and colleagues. As soon as someone walks in, I'm scanning them, and I am. We're trained to scan somebody, literally how someone walks. Oh, you have a problem with your hip, or you're not feeling well today. The eyes are very important also. It is the image to your soul. You can see someone's how they're feeling. So you already have, as soon as somebody walks in, a good idea of which area to look at. You ask questions. Questions is imperative for us. And things that might not seem important on an everyday normalization scale, which you mentioned before, is very important for us. I mean, how you're feeling, the color of your urine, are you going to toilet okay? Do you have headaches? Are you bloated after you've, eating? And if you have a headache, which part of your head is it? It's very important, all these things, because we are trained, obviously not to use an X-ray machine. We're trained to use to see how that person is at a moment. So that would be one area, diagnostically. And then another area, which is very, very important for us, is actually tongue analysis. So we ask someone to stick their tongue out, and as bizarre as it sounds, it is a very clear reflection of what's going on inside the body. According to TCM, different parts of the tongue represents different parts of the organ. So if you wake up in the morning and the tip of your tongue is really, really red, you probably had an argument with your partner, okay? Or a fight with your daughter or your son. It's an emotional heart thing. I'm not in a very good place today, and that's okay. Admit it. How can we sort this out? So, and different parts of your tongue on the side is more to do with your liver. So that could be swollen. Again, we have teeth marks. We did a little bit about how we can look after our liver. So it's a nice recognition of what's going on in the body before it becomes pathological.
Okay, so we should, that's a very interesting sentence, before it becomes pathological. So it's almost like we have to go on maintenance, because what especially in this country, as amazing as the National Health Service is for us, it's a very much reactive health service. So we only go to see the doctor if we are sick. And, I think this is more of a maintenance type of approach, right?
I think rather than maintenance, Stella, the business has been around sickness for a long time. Okay, we help in sickness and we don't help in health. So rather than maintenance, it really is just health maintenance. I mean, health management, not even maintenance. We don't even want to get to when you need to change the oil in the car.
Right.
We want to really try and have this oil flowing nicely. That should we need some maintenance, then we change the oil in the car, and we're not sick yet.
Yeah.
It really is, and this taking back responsibility of our own health is imperative for us and for me as a health manager. And this situation, sadly enough, has given us that opportunity to really start looking at what can I do for myself, on my health, on my wellness.
Yeah, really, health is definitely our
Yeah.
wealth. You mentioned earlier that TCM was good for fertility. How about menopause?
Ooh, absolutely amazing. Again, we come back to this, the hot flushes, the sort of the mood swings, and your body shape changes, and everything outside our lives, also apart from internally and externally. There's a lot of changes going on. First, besides the women changing, we have external factors. We're in our 50s, you know, more or less our kids are more independent, more or less our relationship is established or not. And there's lots of things going on outside which actually take up a lot of our energy anymore. And then we don't have to comply to parents, or there's a lot of questioning goes on. It's not just a physical side, it's a very mental state. Okay, that's why we have all these things going on, which is, it's a very complicated stage to be in, independent of the hormonal changes, both for men and for women. So it really has to have, again, we have to have a holistic view on this. I mean, for example, Shah has a wellness program for helping at these stages. So coming specifically to for menopause in women, first thing we need to do is really get a hormone check. Okay, it's not just about estrogens and progesterones. If we have serotonin, melatonin, we have the pituitary gland, which is our little master of orchestra telling the body what to do. It could be also tired from the stress of 40 years of working, children, of marriage, and everything else. So there's lots of things we have to look into. So holistically speaking, TCM helps with menopause because we're going to help first with the emotional side, with the mood swings, and then with this internal heat. And of course, you have things like wild yam if we're having night sweats, which is very good for you. And there's lots of alternative or natural foods that will help a little bit maybe pre-menopause, on keeping these estrogens in a level that's a bit more manageable. And of course, there's 3 estrogens and there's testosterone. There's lots going on. There's lots of us.
Yeah.
Lots
And so wild yam is a good one, you say,
for
and
example,
then and flaxseed is also good for the estrogen,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Just managing
Yes.
that. A question, because we keep coming back to this whole thing about the emotions. It comes up very frequently in our sessions.
Yes.
Because there isn't, I guess TCM isn't about coaching or talking, or it's not something that you think of when you think of TCM, and that kind of verbal therapy, so to speak. How are those emotions managed through TCM? It's just by releasing the trapped emotions, right?
Yes, and talking about it. I'm a trained. I've got a master psychology also, so I do use this a lot in my treatment. I'm laughing here because people come to see me and they go, "Oh, that wasn't meant to happen," and all this comes out. I said, "This is meant to be acupuncture," and it's not just acupuncture. It really is a health management, understanding how our body works, the TCM paradigm. In China or in Eastern medicine, of course, once they see that your kidney yin is low, they know you're going to have fear. So I'm not sure if it's actually spoken about, but we have a different approach as a society, as a culture, to verbalizing more these things. So if you find a therapist, it's nice. The relationship is so important. I like saying it's like going to your priest or your confessor once a month, because I've had a terrible week, or I had a big fight with my boss. Well, we're going to look after your liver because you're angry. Okay, my kids are teenagers, they're driving up the wall, I don't really know what to do with it, so we're going to look after your liver. We're going to also look at the fear that they might be leaving the nest. So there's all these things which I would like to say as a TCM professional and integrative doctor. I would really love to see more hand in hand. A person is not just an organ or you know, or an ailment or an illness at that day. It is a complete story. And the person himself, when they come to see me, knows their story best. We have to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we don't have any of these kind of existing preconditions, I mean, we've talked about that, and we do want to maintain our good health, or not maintain was a bad word. We want to manage our good health.
That's nice.
Manage our good health. And you know, the words that come up a lot in TCM is like harmony and balance. It's getting us to that state of equilibrium, that balance.
Yes.
What do? You know, we do our qigong or our tai chi, we do our movement. Should we go and have like regular acupuncture?
I would love you to do so, at least once a month, as we go to the hairdressers or have our nails done.
Okay, so you think it's as important as doing tai chi or eating well is yes. To do that, because it will just unblock the channels.
Yes, before it becomes pathological. It's always been my we really need to maintain. I mean, if you have a broken bulb in your house, you're going to change the bulb. Otherwise, this is not going to, you know, your room's not going to be lit. So this is really just keeping this electromagnetic force, this chi, the energy, whatever you want to call it, flowing, that your body's communicating in its matrix in the right way.
Gosh, you've really encouraged me to do that now. To have a month, as you say, is as much as spending money on doing your nails or something else. There's another question: is cupping deeper than acupuncture?
Okay, cupping is a totally different technique.
Yeah.
And that is used to withdraw stasis, accumulation of phlegm. And it's used a lot of people see it on the neck, on the back, and a detox massages. It's not that it's deeper or different, it's just it sucks up the blood to the surface. The idea is to absorb the toxins and the heat away and relieve the pain. Sometimes they're even pierced the skin with a tiny little, like a little knifey thing, and they suck blood out. Okay, this is a bit more extreme, but this will really relieve what we call stasis or accumulation of phlegm and blood in an area that is now creating pain. We have to know that if there is pain in the body, there's a reason for it. So we have a sore knee or elbows there, there's liquid or there's some liquids around it protecting that area. So your body says, be careful with this, I'm still healing it. But what happens, some things don't go, they stay there, and this creation of more blood and phlegm stays longer, and then you need this help to get rid of it. The massages that we do, the detoxing, the lymphatic drainage, the qigong, all these things get rid of this. So cupping is slightly different, or totally different really than acupuncture, but the similar principle of just getting things moving on a bigger scale, I suppose.
Yeah, that's great explanation. Thank you. There's another good question here. I've been looking at those acupressure mats too. What do you think about them? These acupressure mats are on the market.
I think they're nice. They're nice. I don't know enough to give you enough information about it, but there are like far infrared mats, for example, which also help the cells bioelectronically speaking to relax. And the acupressure mats or the shoes that you wear are also putting a little bit of pressure on areas. But like everything, listen to the body. People say, how long should I sit on this? Or should I lie on it? Should my kids go on it? Okay, so if your kids are a little bit fluey, a little bit, feeling weak, then you put them on one of these mats. And if after 5 minutes they want to get up, just let them get up. Don't let them stay long, because the body's very, very knowledgeable. I have a mat that sometimes I lie on 10 minutes. Ugh, had enough, it's too hot. Other times I've fallen asleep for 2 hours because I've really needed it. So again, be in contact with your body, listen to it, learn to what's happening, and then you can respond faster to what's going on.
Yeah, it's that having that connection to to actually feel what's going on in our bodies, and taking, yes. I think it's actually taking the time, isn't it? Like taking a breath and really connecting with yourself and saying, how am I really feeling today? Where am I feeling this stuff in my body? And making that a daily practice. Again, that I really think that should be a self-care ritual, like something
absolutely.
Every day. We spend so much time rushing around and doing things for other people and running around here and running around there and all that stuff, and we just don't spend that time on ourselves.
I tell all my patients, sorry to interrupt, Stella, that before you get up in the morning, promise yourself 3 minutes. That's all. The first thing we do is get up and look at our phone. Okay, we don't check, ouch, my toe I banged yesterday still hurting, or I'm feeling hungry, or what was it that my daughter said before I went to bed and I didn't have time to answer. It's those 3 minutes before we get out of bed of just literally scan yourself on what's going on. Then get up and do whatever you have to do. And people say to me, oh, I get up and do meditation that's from 6 to 9 or whatever. I said, great. Do you enjoy doing this? You know, let's not put a title on things that creates more stress or anxiety in us because I'm saying I'm doing yoga. Maybe it's better for you, I don't know, 3 in the afternoon when you're on your own, but to get up at 6 and do your meditation. I'm going to be shocked here by people who do meditation. I do meditation, but it's got to be part of your ritual in which you are in tune with yourself.
Yeah, if it becomes a chore and it's something that you don't want to do, then it's not right for you. I think that's the key. I think there's parts of meditation where your mind will always fight you and tell you don't want to do this, so you have to go and do this instead. I think once we're over that, do you have practitioners that you can recommend in London or a website to look up? What's the difference with 5 elements and TCM? Are they the same? Yes, there are some practitioners that I could recommend in London, and there are there is a website of
yes. Look on there's a British Association of Acupuncturists or Traditional Chinese Medicines. Look at them; they're well trained, lovely people, and that's why I recommend to see. I can't recommend anybody personally because everyone is so unique. And you might have a great relationship with one therapist and not so much with another. It really is a personal thing on how you relate to the person that you're going to actually allow to treat you. It's like any other practitioner.
Yeah. And do you have a name of the infrared mat that you talked about?
Look up
infrared mats.
Okay, FIR, far infrared. Look it up on Google. You can actually have, quartz and whatever and very fancy things, and you can have just a simple one. You can have them small enough like a yoga mat or a big, more complex one for your whole bed. So it really, really will depend on people's budget and preferences.
So FIR, a far infrared
FIR,
mat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a fir tree.
Okay, I'll put that in here.
That's great.
Right.
Coming back to the 5 elements. Okay, it's very, it's one of the principles within traditional Chinese medicine, which means there is an action and a reaction to everything that goes on. We have the water, air, metal, fire, and earth. And all these things represent the natural cycles of life and within us. So if we're talking about the 5 elements of our organ of stomach, spleen, we're talking about in 5 elements an earth side, okay, a yellow. So we'd have to look at what's going on. Too much yellow on my food. Look at it, for example. Oh gosh, a lot of spleen is going on here. Means a lot of thought, a lot of mind. So maybe we need to relax a little bit more, that type of thing. So the 5 elements help us guide somebody to balance out the natural cycle. Some people use this as their principle in TCM. I do. I use the 5 elements.
Interesting.
Very much so.
Yeah, interesting. Coming back to that then, you're a big advocate of spending time in nature.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you do?
Oh, a very good question. I paddle sup, standing paddle sup down rivers, in the sea. I rock climb, I kayak, anything that connects me with nature I do. And I do long walks in the forest. I practice rinku, forest bathing a lot. Reconnecting, peace and quiet with nature is so important for us. It gives us that feeling of power of the external system and also in internal systems. Power, synchronicity. It's very beautiful.
Yeah. And Lisa, on your question there about the grounding mat or grounding in general, that is where nature really comes into play, because that's where you can really ground. go spend time in the forest, go spend time in nature, and connect to the earth. And that's part of the 5 elements as well, isn't it?
It is,
Philippa?
yes. And physically speaking, just on a physiological thinking, as I'm talking about this electromagnetic force that's going in us, or the electricity that's in our body, it is electron and proton around every cell in our body. As we're moving, we're actually creating friction, that's creating electricity, and that's what feeds us our electricity in our body. So, like any electronic system, sometimes you touch the toast, you're going to get a shock, okay? We touch the car and we get a shock, okay? We're wearing shoes, we get in the car, we're on a rubber surface, you go to the office, in a carpet. We're not touching Earth, literally, in a way of releasing these excess of electrons and protons. So earthing, as well as it sounds, it's nothing weird, it really is earthing the body, the excess of electrons out of your body, and that makes us feel healthy. That's why in the summer we're running around on the beach, it's great. The sea is great because it's ionizing water. It's also good for our body. It's all about this electricity that's going on in our world and this great Wi-Fi system of the universe.
Such a great analogy that is. But, Mandy asks, reflexology and acupuncture, which one is more effective at unblocking chi?
Both are totally independent of each other, and equally as effective. There's different, obviously, if you okay with people massaging your feet, reflexology is very effective. The principles are the same. We have auricular therapy in Chinese medicine, which is just working with your ears. Some people, Yakumoto has one just with your face, other ones just with your feet. The principle is every part of your body represents the whole, which is true. Okay, so we represent the whole of a big universe, but of course every part of our body will also represent us because it's the same cells, it's the same us, it's the same universe. So that's the principle. Either are effective. If you're happy doing reflexology, please do it. It's very good.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Philippa, tell us a little bit about the book that you're writing.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because I've been applying this principle of connecting with nature, electromagnetism, understanding where we are today, and also our problems with emotions, I'm writing a book on my methodology of what I've been practicing for all these years, with hopefully a workbook so that what happens in this learning process, we can actually put it into practice. And it is using your head, your hands, and your heart.
Oh, we can't wait.
That is really when we are totally coordinated and coherent with ourselves.
That's wonderful. Well, when you finish the book and publish it, we'd like to have you back, please. So you
that would be lovely. Thank you so much, Stella.
It would be amazing.